You're listening to the #1 podcast for oil and gas professionals. What's up? What's up? Mike Fry, I'm here with Dallas Bozeman.
Hey, what's happening?
What's happening, D? And, it's post-election day here in the U.S. It's, we got November 9th. It's a topic of conversation. It's all over. You can't go anywhere without someone talking about it. I mean, hell, you go to lunch, everybody's talking about it. So what Dallas and I wanted to do is just kind of kick out a podcast, talk a little bit about politics, more so now that Trump's being elected, what is the effect on us in oil and gas, and is there one? And I think the big thing is that we can take from last night comes from the Rolling Stones.
You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, well, you might find you get.
As crazy as it is, it's true. You can't always get what you want, but what you have to do is just understand that this is the process. And, that's the great thing about being a free society is you have a right to vote. And hopefully everybody did, and some people won and some people didn't. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And so what Dallas and I want to talk about today is what does the future look like? What's the future look like for the oil and gas industry? Sorry, I got about an hour and a half of sleep last night. But what do we think is going to happen? What did both candidates, kind of stand for during their cycle? And what do we think is going to happen moving forward with Trump? So, Dallas, I'll kind of turn it over to you. What was the kind of the platform that both of them ran on?
Yes, well, you look at the political campaigns, and the ones that Hillary ran on most predominantly was she started to try to steal some of the Bernie Sanders supporters and went after the Green parties. And her stance was, opposed to the Keystone drilling, opposed to Arctic drilling, shutting down the Keystone pipeline. What she was in favor for was natural gas because she felt like that was the cleanest source. But fossil fuels, coal, things like that, those were all things that she was looking to get rid of. So, I think she lost a lot of support within a lot of those energy industries because of that. Not to say that with Trump we still don't have questions, because the problem that some people see with Trump is he sees fracking as the key to American independence and energy, but he also talked about kind of open up the supply lines, and some people feared that he might flood the market. So there's still questions to be answered. The point is he doesn't take office until January. So for us in oil and gas, nothing's changing anytime soon. Yeah, and I think something that's interesting is, when you get out there and you run for an elected office and you tell people, hey, look, I'm going to shut down the coal industry. Well, let's think about that. You're telling people I'm going to put you out of work. I'm going to regulate fracking so much that by the time you get through all of the things that I require, you won't be able to do it. So now you're talking about people in oil and gas. And it's interesting is we talk about alternative energy sources, and we talk about, solar and wind and hydro and all this other stuff. But it's like, can that actually produce what we needed to? Now, yes, granted, everybody knows my story. I spent 10 years in the U.S. Navy on nuclear submarines. Nuclear power is a very safe source of energy. The problem is it's the thought of it's nuclear power. You get the 3 Mile Islands, you get the Chernobyls, you get the thing that happened in Japan with the tsunami. You have events that are catastrophic. But the reality is, as a whole, nuclear power is actually very safe. So I think when you go into a platform and you say, hey, look, I'm going to regulate, I'm going to get rid of jobs, I'm going to do all this other stuff, you put yourself at risk for kind of ostracizing a group of people, especially blue-collar workers, which you saw in Pennsylvania and some of these other areas, who need their livelihood. At the same point, I think it's interesting with Keystone Pipeline, the issues that are going through with the my brain just went dead, but the Dakotas, yep. Arctic drilling and all these other things. Hey, I was a part of Macondo. I know the fallout from what happens when a major event takes place. You talk about, the environment, you talk about, just everything, unfortunately that happens. You don't want that to ever happen. No one says, hey, we're going to go drill in the Arctic and we plan on having a spill. No one planned to have it here in the Gulf of Mexico. That just happened. But I think with the regulations that we have in place, what you find is, as you mentioned, even with Trump, Trump said, hey, we're going to
open up fracking. We're going to do this. We're going to, deregulate some of the stuff, in our own areas where we're going to produce more. And the challenge is that doesn't change what came out in the new well control rule from Bessie. Trump's not going to take office in January, and we're going to stop doing BOP inspections, and we're going to stop having competency assessments. Things are going to change from a production standpoint, and I think from an opportunity standpoint. But for us in oil and gas, it's not going to just happen overnight to where, hey, Trump's in office, everything's cool. Third parties and inspections and everybody else is just going to go away. That's not going to change. Matter of fact, if anything, regulations are there for a reason. It's to keep us safe. I think what happens is when you over-regulate and you get to a point where it starts to be more detrimental than it is beneficial, that's where we start seeing the issues as a society as a whole. I mean, we're talking worldwide, not just here in the U.S.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And regardless of what the election outcome, what impact that has on the energy, it doesn't change our responsibility for compliance to environmental standards. We still have the same rules and regulations in the Gulf of Mexico. We still have the same rules and regulations of how we're supposed to drill, do BOP verifications, all these things. Even when Trump gets into office in January, we don't even know what the priorities are going to be once he arrives. So, I think one thing that we've really learned over the past 24 hours is, one, how unpredictable human behavior can be and how unpredictable the market can be. Once the polls shifted, the first thing we saw was the global market crashing 800 points. They're like, oh, well, see, this is bad news. But within 24 hours, less than 24 hours, it makes a rebound and goes on the climb. So market speculation, what people are going to do, how they're going to act, it's just so unpredictable at this point. You can't go in and say, well, this is going to make a turn in the next year and a half now because Trump's elected. We can't say that. OPEC still is going to do what OPEC's going to do, and the Gulf of Mexico is going to do what the Gulf of Mexico is going to do.
Yeah, and that's what I think is interesting is you had an administration, again, we're not talking, pro one side or the other, but you had an administration that kind of was very friendly to the Saudis and OPEC in a lot of these areas. And what ended up happening, they said, we don't like your fracking, so we're going to crank down and we're going to drop the price. We're going to open up the pumps and drop the price of oil. What happens when Trump comes in and goes, you know what, don't need you. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to frack and you can drop the oil. We're just going to increase our production and we're going to go and kind of compete against you. I don't know. So to me, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think it is what it is. We're going to have a new president regardless if it was Clinton or Trump. Trump won. And, as a society, I think we just get ready and you go back to work and you go back to school and you do what you do. Too many people I saw in the news this morning that people are out rioting in the streets and it's like, for what? And I say for what? Hey, look, you voted. There's, I made the comment before, in sports, there's winners and there's losers. What would it have been like if it was gone the other way? Would the Trump supporters be rioting in the streets? Was Gary Johnson's people rioting in the streets? It is what it is, and unfortunately rioting doesn't do anything but just make more issues for people, Yeah,
that was the beauty. The great thing about the American election process is it's democratic, and it doesn't matter who's in office. America's still America. It's still the greatest country in the world. We're always going to be on top. We're going to always overcome whatever adversities are thrown our way. One thing that doesn't change because of politics is our need to invest in each other and invest in people. So at the end of the day, we still have to invest in training. We still have to invest in leadership. We have to put people in place. So regardless of what the market does, we put ourselves and the companies that we work with in the best position to be successful.
That's right. I mean, we were at lunch today and we were talking about, we were at a small Hamburg diner here in our local area. And we were talking about, hey, what if they turn around and took the minimum wage to $15 an hour? Now the burger, I think one of the meals was $7-8. You're not even making, there must've been almost 10, 12 people in there during rush hour. If every one of those people are making $15 an hour, they're losing money. And what you'll end up doing is either start laying people off or they'll put in the kiosks and, it's like, I don't need people to take your order. You're just going to place your order and then somebody in the back will cook it and we'll bring it out to you. So it's always interesting when it comes to, hey, I want. And it's like, I want $15 an hour. Okay, do you have a job today? No. What are you bitching about? How about you just get a job today, provide for your family, and then we move forward, And I don't know. I mean, we could go on for hours and we'd sound like everybody else, but it's like, what is the effect of the election have on oil and gas? Really what it has is we still need to do our jobs. We still need to be safe and have policies and procedures and highly trained people. And you're going to have the regulator looking over your shoulder. Does it mean tomorrow we're going to flood the Gulf of Mexico with drill ships? No. Does it mean 6 months from now we're going to have more ships back to work and contracts? And maybe, but that's 6 months from now. And I think what's important is we just have to do what we do each and every day. Dallas and I were walking out of the office yesterday and we kind of joked to each other and it's like, well, regardless of what happens, I'll see you tomorrow morning. And I think that's the attitude that we have to have is regardless of what happens, you do what you have to do. And as long as there's enough of us doing what we have to do, then we're going to be okay.
And that's it. End of the day, small businesses, I mean, that's what America's founded on. We as an industry, this is blue collar. This is the backbone. The people that make up this industry, it's what America's founded on, regardless of political affiliations or diversity. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you're doing. We all rely on each other. We rely on building a strong industry. And just like you said, no matter how last night would have played out, we still show up to work the next day. You got to come in, put in your hours, put in the effort, and we're all working for a better market at the end of the day. Yeah,
and I always think it's interesting. It's kind of a, it depends on what side of the fence you're on. And what I mean by that is, oil and gas is booming. Let's say the price of oil goes up, so it's good for the oil and gas industry, but people are complaining about, I'm paying $3 a gallon for regular gas, and I'm paying almost $4 for premium. Well, us in oil and gas are pumping. It's like pump away, buy that big, Cadillac, get the 10 miles to the gallon. But then the other half of it goes, or the price of gas drops down to $1.50, $1.80. Now we're looking around, all of our peers are losing their jobs. They're losing their homes. And it's like, for me, I would rather pay a little bit more in gas and let the family of 4 or 5 next to me keep their house and keep their jobs, especially here in Houston. I mean, what they say, I think I saw one time like hundreds of thousands of people have lost their job.
Right.
I mean, you're talking some major metropolitan cities would have just been decimated from the loss of just people in the oil and gas industry.
Yeah, that's right. So it gets back to the same point. Regardless of where you feel we're at or where this industry's going or where this political agenda is going to end up, at the end of the day, we have to come in. We have to plan our business. We have to work smartly. We have to stay within our regulations, environmental work scopes. We just have to keep chipping away. That's it.
No, I agree. And I think it's important is, the people that'll hear this podcast are, I would say predominantly oil and gas people. So I think I think today's a good day and we move forward, and, today was going to be a good day regardless, because I've always said before, as long as it doesn't bother me on the 1st and 15th and comes into my sphere, I can't control the outside world. I can just vote, pay my taxes, and, try to provide for my employees and for my family. So we'll do what we do. We keep hustling. We keep grinding every day. And, tonight we'll get some sleep, but I just hope the rest of the world just sits back and really just thinks about what had taken place. Because again, if you are a part of, and it happens even in corporations, not to kind of go on a rant, but if you are the establishment, people will sooner or later go around you. And if you're not supporting your employees and you're not supporting, your management teams, we talk about this in our advanced leadership courses and stuff, sooner or later, you're going to get pushed out. And it might not be when you think it's going to happen. I mean, the reason we always talk about the reason we play the game is because on any given Sunday, somebody could win and somebody could lose. I'm sure there were people yesterday who woke up thinking, I am going to be the next president of the United States. And then by about 2:00 in the morning, it was, what the hell just happened? I don't know what happened. A movement happened. But at the end of the day, you have to do what you have to do each and every day. And that's all you can do.
That's it. Go to work, do your best by your people, invest in them the way they invest in you, take care of them, take care of their families, Be sure people are your number one priority. That's all you can do.
Yeah, and so for us, like I said, we've been sitting around talking about The Office. It's been, obviously you can't get away from it on TV. It's all anybody is talking about. So Dallas and I wanted to throw a little podcast together. Like the Rolling Stones said, you can't always get what you want. But great quote from Ricky Bobby: if you ain't first, you're last. So, all you can do is give it your best each and every day.
I'm the best
That's
there
right.
is, plain and simple. I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, and nobody can hang with my stuff. I'm just a big, hairy American winning machine. If you ain't first, you're last.